I'm financially irresponsible. I don't have a savings account.
People are selling their treasures that they've had in their basement or their garage because they need money.
It's hard living here because I'm in my van because I'm limited to what I can do.
An America where 770,000 people, nearly the population of Boston, didn't have a roof over their heads on a single night of counting. An America where 12.1 million households spend over half their income just to pay rent. Where 2 pounds of cold cuts cost $23 and a Walmart basket that used to be $120 is now over $300 for the same amount of groceries. Where a $9.85 electricity bill appeared in the mailbox of a house where no one lived. Attend mass, decorating, gifts, things that were once a joy are now a luxury. And for millions of Americans, the question this season is no longer where will we celebrate this year, but rather, will we even have enough to get through the month this year? This is not speculation, not a sensational story. These are cold numbers, knocking directly on the doors of every American family. And in the next few minutes, we'll break down the 6 clearest signs of a hard truth. Millions of Americans can't celebrate this year because everyday life is collapsing right before their eyes. What do you think is at the top of the list? The answer will definitely surprise you. There's a statistic that sounds a bit hard to believe, but is true for millions of people. A $126 Walmart basket in 2021 now costs over $300 for the exact same items. No more beer, no more cake, no more of anything for the holiday. Just the basics: meat, bread, vegetables, milk. And if you think this number is ridiculous, just try going into a supermarket and see. $23 for 2 pounds of deli meat, $12 for 2 apples and 2 bags of green beans, a small salad, about the size of a hand box, $8. Then try asking, how can a traditional holiday dinner, the meal that is the symbol of the American family, still hold meaning when it becomes a budgeting problem? Why did this happen? People often say, inflation has cooled down. But they forgot to say the next sentence. If prices have gone up, they won't go down again. Slowing down the rate of increase, not lowering prices. Food prices have increased by 24% since 2020. Some items have doubled, even tripled in price. And then there's something else interesting. Shrinkflation. Smaller packages, higher prices, and buyers have no other choice. Behind the shiny shelves lies an entire supply chain concentrated in the hands of a few major players. When a few names control the supply, they don't need to shout. Just change a small price list. The whole country has to revolve around it. And then the impact wasn't something distant, but right there at the dinner table. For middle-class families, the cost of food increases by $250 to $400 per month. Unskilled workers skip meat and fresh fruit altogether, buying canned goods to get by. What about the elderly? Many people are literally resorting to eating one meal a day. A cheap, simple meal to make the retirement money last a few more weeks. A 45-year-old father recounted, half-jokingly, "I don't buy meat by the pound anymore. I bought it out of heartbreak." His son, about 10 years old, asked, "Dad, are we poor?" He stood still, and the answer lies right there in the silence. People still call America the land of the rich, but now a pound of beef costs as much as a pair of mid-range sneakers. Perhaps it's also reasonable shoes help us run away from the runaway food prices. Do you still feel that going to the market is a normal thing? And every time you go to the supermarket, do you also have to silently calculate cutting back on this item and skipping that one? In your opinion, why are food prices in the US rising like this, and will they ever return to their previous levels? Please share in the comment section. I believe you're not the only one who feels this way. And this is only the most visible part of the collapse of daily life. If a meal was this difficult, imagine what would happen with something bigger and more important, where we live. If the meal situation was already making many American families feel suffocated, then the new housing situation truly became the heaviest blow to daily life. There's a chilling statistic. 12.1 million households in the US are spending over 50% of their income just to pay rent. That means for every dollar they earn, half goes to exactly one expense: rent. What kind of celebration is that with a problem like this? Another difficult figure to swallow is this. From 2020 to the present, rent has increased by an average of 18%, and in places like Florida, it has risen by 40 to 50%. A modest two-bedroom apartment can easily cost between $20,500 and $3,000 per month. Rent now is equal to a new pickup truck, but you have to pay it monthly. Why did this escalate like this? The reasons are obvious, but the reason few people mention is the most terrifying. The supply of affordable housing has disappeared by nearly 30% in just one decade. Apartments under Trauzuzuziron were once a lifeline for low-income earners. Now they are almost extinct. Additionally, investors are buying up a large number of low-priced properties, turning housing into a profitable asset. Rental prices increase by area. Young people can't afford to buy a house. They all put their money into the rental market. Demand increases, prices rise. A vortex, no one controls it, but everyone has to endure it. For the elderly, who are living on pensions and subsidies, a rent increase of $400, $700 would be enough to make them lose their homes. What's the difference between workers? Unable to afford rent near their workplace, they moved into their car, parking in Walmart, lots, parks, or anywhere with lights. A family of four faces an unsolvable dilemma. Pay the mortgage or buy food? You can't do both. A 78-year-old woman who lived in her car for 2 months. I slept hunched over. My legs are swollen. But this is the only place I have left. She uses the bathroom at the Medicare-supported gym, eating a $2 meal every day. Her Christmas this year was just about staying warm through the night. They say, home is where the heart is. But in America now, home is where you can afford to live, not where you want to live. Do you believe rent will return to its previous level? Or are we witnessing a new era where housing is becoming a luxury? In your area, how much has rent increased compared to 3 out of 5 years ago? Please share, because your true stories will show the extent of the problem. And if you think rent is already ridiculous, just wait until you see the electricity, water, and gas bills, things that should never be this expensive. If rent alone is enough to leave many families gasping for air, then the monthly bills are the real unexpected blow to the middle class's wallets, right during the season when they should be resting and celebrating. Try listening to this number: $985 for electricity for a house that no one lives in. Air conditioning set to 80 degree mouth. No TV, no Wi-Fi, no devices plugged in. And yet, the bill was still almost as much as the rent for a high-end hotel room. And this isn't a rare occurrence. Thousands of people are sharing gas, electricity, and water bills that have doubled in just 1 year. Many families in New Jersey report, "We pay more for electricity than we do for our cars." Literally. But do you have a reason why the bill is skyrocketing like this? The reason lies in the tiny lines of text that we often skim over. Items like delivery charges, service fees, distribution fees, and adjustment fees, when added together, become an amount almost equal to the actual electricity bill. Additionally, the outdated energy system and slow operating lines need to be renovated. Transmission maintenance costs are passed on to the user. And there's one thing everyone knows but few say outright. In many states, utility companies are almost regional monopolies. You can't switch to a cheaper company. There's only one option: pay or be disconnected. When a market lacks competition, the price list isn't meant for negotiation, but for acceptance. Retirees living on Social Security have their budgets wiped out by bills before the 15th of the month. A young family that just bought a house loses 30–40% of their income just to maintain electricity, water, and gas. For low-income workers, it's simpler. A month late on a bill also means losing electricity, losing their home, losing their job. A domino effect that no one is strong enough to stop. One person said bitterly, almost jokingly, "We're not turning off the Christmas lights this year to save money. It's because we don't have enough money to turn them on." In America, the brightest thing about the holiday season should be the Christmas tree. But many families say, the brightest thing in my house is the electricity bill. And not bright in a cheerful way. In the area where you live, have your electricity and water bills increased significantly in recent years? Do you find that small fees are becoming unreasonably large? In your opinion, what is the deepest root cause of rising bills in the US? Please share, as many people are experiencing the same thing as you. And if the bill has become a collection of incomprehensible costs, imagine what happens when people no longer have a financial cushion to withstand any shocks. If the monthly bill is the silent killer, then running out of savings is like walking through a winter night without a coat. Just one strong gust of wind and it's bone-chillingly cold. And that wind, in America now, only $400 is enough. According to a Federal Reserve survey, only 63% of Americans say they could handle a $400 emergency with cash or savings. That means the remaining 37%, over a third of the country, would be immediately destabilized, borrowing from friends, swiping credit cards, or simply not being able to cope. $400 isn't a huge shock. It's not a storm. It's just a tire blew out on the highway, a medical bill, one hot water heater repair, things that everyone thinks are normal. Do you know why Americans' wallets are so thin? First, real food prices remain stagnant, while prices steadily climb like an endless staircase. You earn about the same as you did 5 years ago, but everything around you is twice as expensive. Second, the middle class is slowly being eroded. Many people still think they're okay, but in reality, they're just standing on the edge of a cliff without realizing it. A gentle gust of wind, and it slid down. Third, personal credit debt is exploding. Many families live on credit cards, not real income. The buffer that once existed to cushion against risk has been replaced by an APR of 25 to 29%. And so, what was supposed to be insurance for the future now became an anchor pulling them down faster. For many Americans now, they are no longer prepared, they are just coping. A minor setback is the debt burden. A minor illness can cost a whole month's salary. 1 month of unemployment means losing your house and car. It's sad but true. When you have no savings left, you have no options. And when you lose your choices, you also lose your ability to celebrate. A worker said, "I lived through the 2008 recession, but this time, I'm more scared." And you know what? That man isn't the only one. They say the American dream never dies. That's right, because the reality is that it's only being resold at a 29% profit. APR. Do you want a dream? I'll pay in installments. Do you remember the last time you had a real emergency fund? Is a $400 shock a problem for you, or are you also worried about next month? In your opinion, why would a wealthy country like the US make it so that its citizens can't even save a small amount of money? Please share, you are not alone. And when savings are depleted and credit cards are maxed out, where do Americans turn? Typically, it's food banks, which are supposed to be the last resort. But in the US in recent years, even food banks are overwhelmed. If you think running out of emergency funds is the bottom rung of the crisis ladder, then try looking at food banks, once the last resort for those in need. For many years, despite economic ups and downs, food banks have remained a safety valve for America. But at this point, that valve is about to break. In 1 year, Food Lifeline in Washington state increased from 800,000 support visits to 1.7 million. It's not a 5 to 10% increase, more than doubled. And in parallel with the soaring demand, the USDA had to adjust, cutting a significant portion of emergency food assistance. And then the scene unfolded that many people never thought they would see in America. Hundreds of food banks closing because they had nothing left to distribute. A woman shared, "I went to 20 food pantries in 1 day. Everything is closed. It sounds like something out of a movie, but that's something that happens right in the heart of a wealthy nation. What's going on behind the scenes?" Food prices rose 24% in a few years, making the poor even poorer. The middle class hit rock bottom, and even those who were once quite well off had to turn to food banks to ease the strain. Demand increases exponentially. Meanwhile, the food supply is cut off and intermittent, like a faucet being turned down when your house is on fire. It's not anyone's fault. Simply put, the system is overstretched. When these two forces meet, increased demand and decreased supply, food banks become severely overburdened. Now, for many Americans, a meal is no longer about what's available to eat, but whether there's anything left to eat. Millions of Americans don't even have a full dinner, let alone a proper festive meal. Families with children, less meat, less milk, less fruit. Nutritional quality is declining. The elderly, literally switching to 1 meal a day to stretch their budget. An elderly woman said through tears, "If the food bank also closes, I don't know what my children will eat." Such sayings. After hearing them, you'll find it hard to stay still. In the US, poverty now isn't about not having a job. In reality, many people still go to work every day. It's just, even after working, I'm still hungry. A difficult but undeniable truth. Do you believe food banks should be temporary lifelines, or are they becoming a system for feeding the entire community? Where you live, is this situation getting worse? And if even free food runs out, what happens next? Your honest sharing will help many others see that they are not alone at all. And when food banks are no longer enough to compensate, when meals and shelter are both becoming precarious, the final question is, where will the homeless go? In the next part, we will talk about the coldest thing in this picture, the record increase in homelessness across the United States. When the meal is no longer complete, when rent becomes a luxury, when the electricity and water bills become a monthly psychological battle. So, what happened next was something many Americans never thought they would experience: losing their homes. And this number isn't a rumor, not an exaggeration. It's the official recorded figure: 770,000 homeless people in just one night in 2024. An 18% increase compared to the previous year, the highest level ever, 770,000. That's nearly the population of an entire large city suddenly becoming people with nowhere to sleep. It's not someone else's business, it's the business of someone who used to live well. What makes this situation even colder is that many of them don't fit the image of homelessness that society often imagines. That's someone who used to have a stable job. I have a small house. There's a car. They have a simple but fulfilling life. And then a month of fading memories due to the accident, a large medical bill, a $600 rent increase, and they fell out of the system faster than they realized. The elderly are the fastest growing group. It's not because they live irresponsibly, and because retirement money remains stagnant. Rental prices have increased significantly, high medical costs, affordable housing is disappearing, and high interest rates make buying a house just a paper dream. So, the elderly men and women who once the old age would be peaceful are now sleeping in cars, on the back seats of old sedans, or in temporary tents in the forest. A 78-year-old woman who lived in her car for over 2 months said, "I slept sideways in the seat. My legs are swollen. But I still try to tell myself, maybe tomorrow I'll find somewhere. A gentle saying, but more profound than any analysis. After you hear it, it's hard to forget. For many years, America has been called the land of dream homes. But by 2025, many people will have to camp in the woods or sleep in Walmart parking lots. Perhaps that dream needs a new permanent address. In your opinion, what is the deepest root cause of the sharp increase in the homeless population? If even the once stable middle class is caught in this vortex, what will become of the future of the middle class? Do you believe the situation will improve, or is this just the beginning of a larger trend? Please share your thoughts, as true stories will convey much that numbers cannot. And this is the most concerning part of the picture. But there's also an unexpected perspective that few people mention. As more and more people lose faith in the current system, they begin to leave it and create new living models for themselves. After everything we've been through, expensive meals, rising rents, budget-busting bills, depleted savings, overcrowded food banks, and hundreds of thousands of people losing their homes, there's an interesting phenomenon happening that many haven't noticed. Americans are quietly leaving the system. It's not about leaving with a lot of fanfare, but rather quietly, like pulling your foot out of cold water because you realize it's no longer right for you. You look every place and see. Farmers' markets are as crowded as fairs, while shopping malls are quiet, waiting to close. People grow vegetables, plant eggplants, and raise a few chickens, not for fun, but to reduce their dependence. The Eden Project 2026 movement emerges. Every home with a small garden, a vegetable patch, a pot of tomatoes. Handmade goods, homemade items, local products. Sell better than mass-produced industrial goods. This isn't a fashionable green trend. This is survival psychology, gentle, soft, but very practical. It seems that after 40 years of relying on large supply chains, supermarkets, and price lists that no one controls, people are starting to wonder, if everything is going up in price, can I make something myself? When trust in the distribution system falters, people instinctively seek to narrow their circle of survival, buying from neighbors, trading with friends, or growing their own food, raising their own animals, or making things themselves. That's not opposition, but it's the American spirit of self-reliance, the very thing that once sustained this entire nation. If millions of people cut back on consumption, produce some of their own food, and shift from shopping malls to local farmers' markets, the consumer economy could enter a completely different cycle. Not bad, not good. It's just a very big shift. Workers are starting to create small jobs for themselves, selling candles, selling handmade wooden crafts, opening small vegetable stalls, and selling at-home car maintenance services. Small economic fragments, like in pre-globalization times, are returning. And the interesting thing is, the American dream hasn't disappeared. It just shrunk right into the backyard. Are you seeing this trend around you? In your opinion, is this a sign of revival or a sign of an economy contracting due to a loss of confidence? If millions of Americans were self-sufficient in part of their lives, how would the national economy change? Please share, as your own experience will provide the most realistic picture. And after all those pieces, the final question is no longer whether Americans are leaving the system, but rather, what will be left if everyday life continues to silently collapse in this way? Ultimately, the scariest thing isn't rising prices or wages not keeping up. The scariest thing is that the daily lives of millions of Americans are changing silently. One meal, one bill, one roof at a time. The question is, what do you see most clearly where you live? Rental price? Food? Bill? Is there a story about neighbors having to leave their homes? Please share in the comment section so everyone can see the real big picture. If you want to continue following in-depth, practical, but not extreme analyses, please subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. The content of this video is analytical and synthesizes publicly available information and is not intended to attack any individual, organization, or group of people. All assessments are based on data, socio-economic phenomena, and encourage the audience to self-evaluate, self-critique, and form their own perspectives. Thank you for staying with me until the end. See you in the next videos.